Okay. Okay, it's on speaker. Sorry, I'm just trying to juggle the mysteries of Zoom at the same time as I'm trying to mute everyone and just trying to get it right. Okay, so I think we can start. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this talk with my dear friend and teacher, Tom Monte. I'm really happy that so many of you have signed up to join this evening. It means a lot that you're there, and of course, it means a lot to me to present Tom to those of you who don't know him, and many people who have shown up tonight, of course, do know him. For those of you who don't know him, Tom is he's a teacher, so he teaches traditional Chinese medicine and spiritual growth and many other things. He's a writer, so he's published 35 books. Um, he's a counselor and he's a healer. And so I have done a very long journey with Tom for over 15 years. And in this time, I had the chance to see how he worked with many, many, many other people, of course, with myself, but with so many other people. And I think Tom is one of the most brilliant and gifted people that are around in these days. So it's a great honor and a great joy to be able to spend this evening together. It's scheduled for 1 hour, but we might go over time, so it might be an hour and a half or even a little bit more. So if you have questions at the end of the talk, of course, you're welcome to ask them. And yeah, we'll try to make this as participatory as we possibly can. Okay, so I will now pass the word to Tom. Tom, welcome to this evening, and thank you so much for, yeah, for spending this time with us.
It's a joy to be with you. It really is. And I thank you, Irene, so much for inviting me and creating this. It feels like another one of our many circles of love and just a joy to just jump into that circle. So I don't have much more to say about myself. I'm a husband and a father. I have 3 grown children. I have a wife who's my best friend and closest person in the world, and we're married for 49 years, and I'm very, very blessed in those departments. Um, I think family is the place where we learn the most, and that is and also with friends, our dear friends. It's the place where we learn the most because it is a place where love is most intense. And wherever there's love, there's going to be great joy, but there's also going to be challenges because love evokes the parts of us that are desperate to be loved. That is to say, the parts of us that are wounded and need healing and know intuitively and know very much in the gut that love is the source of healing. And so what shows up in close relationships always is, of course, the heart and the joy and all the positives, but also within intimate and important relationships, the pain shows up. That's what's got to happen. And so it's how we navigate that pain together. Uh, and our circles in Belgium have been that kind of experience, almost a family. To me, it is an extended family. I have no doubts, no contradictory thoughts about that. Whenever there's a circle of love, there are brothers and sisters, and in those circles there's joy and there's also hard work and there's the confrontation with our pain, and that's what meant to happen. So um, I'm happy to be with all of you today, and um, I know everyone is more than their pain, but and also more than their questions. Everyone has great wisdom, and we all possess the divine within ourselves. And so, if there's any questions today about things that we're struggling with, 2 things, I hope you'll bring it up if you want to, if you feel safe to do that. And also, everyone we always keep in mind that, and I certainly keep it in mind that you're more than whatever you're struggling with, a great deal more. So infinitely more. So by way of introduction, that's a way to offer a small bit about what's important to me, and and why it's a joy to be with you all today.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. That was quite an introduction. So slowly leading us into the subject of the talk tonight. I think everyone here is aware that I wrote a book called A Healing Map that is an introduction to traditional Chinese medicine, but it is also my own story of how I slowly navigated towards becoming a holistic healer. And of course, Tom played a big role in that, encouraging me and above all, inspiring me that something like this is possible. And yeah, Tom, you also wrote the introduction to this book, for which I'm tremendously grateful. And if I had to summarize you actually, or the work you bring to this world, well, one of the way would be to follow your heart, like this great encouragement that you really encourage people to follow their heart. And so perhaps we can kick off with that, and you can just share that how you would how do you define following your heart? What does that mean for you, especially in this time and age?
Yeah. Um, well, I would say, first of all, we should back up for a moment and just understand that in the moment, and there are many things that are going on, right, in the world today, and there are many things that are very troubling and confusing. And I think that in today's world, there is this tremendous force for separation, separation from self, separation from each other, separation from loved ones, from families, all on the basis of what are basically one form or another of ideological uh, persuasions. So, on the basis of some kind of intellectual concepts, we are being inflamed and we're being threatened, and there's enormous fear in the world. And whenever there's fear and ideology, there's going to be lots of anger and separation from self, conflicts. Fear alone makes us so internally conflicted, and then we just project that outward, and we run into conflicts with each other. And old friends are lost or sort of temporarily lost from us, and we tend to separate on the basis of some kind of argument, some kind of trigger that leaves us hurt and somehow in a lasting way wounded and very much entrenched in that point of view. And then the ego, of course, the ego is the driving force in that. And it wants us to be separated. It wants to defeat love. Love is the most terrifying thing there is to the ego because it is the force of reunion, of unity. It is the force of integration of self, integration of with each other, integration of the whole of humanity. And so the separation forces are very, very strong at the moment. There's tremendous fear, tremendous anger. And so that's what we're up against, right? We live in that cauldron if we choose to, and many are choosing to. We do have a choice, but it's hard not to be absorbed into it. Very, very hard, especially given that there's so much fear. And that's an instrument of the ego, of darkness, and that's what is permeating a lot of the world. So when we say follow your heart, um, the center from which we are functioning on a day-to-day basis is far from the heart, and we easily fall into this pit where we think, okay, you know, I was following my heart. I am stating my truth. I'm trying to defend my point of view. I'm trying to, defend my integrity. There's all these real, reasons for, staying where you are in your perspective vis-a-vis the person you may be in conflict with or the society you may be in conflict with. And in the process of doing that and experiencing that, we have a hard time finding our hearts and finding the path of the heart. and finding the path of love. And we may be meantime really being wounded by things that we are by our losses. And so how does one come back to the heart? Uh, and how does one come back to love? And how does one come back to, you know, feeling better about life? How does one restore hope? And of course, these are in the domain of the heart. And we have to understand that. And I want to say that this is what one of the reasons, one of the great things about Irene's book is because what happens in the body is energetically we get stuck and stagnant. We we get shocked by what's happening in the world. We get shocked by fear, and then things get tense and stuck, and the energy doesn't circulate within the system like it once did. It becomes impeded. And then there's that is the basis for illness, all illnesses. But when that gets stuck, say it's stuck in your liver, it's stuck in your gut, and then the heart is deprived of its love. The heart is deprived of the energy that would be nourishing to it so that we can open the heart again. We can feel the heart again. And so it's very hard to, in that stuck energetic state that Irene's book describes, and she also offers a prescription for it, that the movement of that energy along the circle of the five elements, where the heart can be restored, is all the things that Irene's book talks about is so important to us. But we have to remember that in this very moment, there is a tenderness and a purity and an innocence in you, as there is in every one of us. And in that tenderness and innocence and purity, there is not the attachment to ideology or to a point of view that would be separating from the people you care about. Rather, it's a point of view that integrates into you. There's a tenderness that you can be in relationship with at this very moment, an innocence, a purity that we think of that as an inner child, but it's more than that. It's the person you are right now. It's a whole stream of being that began at conception and came to this moment. And that purity in you and that tenderness and that joy that still exists in you despite whatever the circumstances are, that's still present in you, always present. The source of it is not outside you, it's within. And that to come to that consciousness, to say that you're suffering, you're you're afraid, or you're in a place where you don't know, or you're confused, and to come into that in your consciousness and quiet your mind and feel into that. Quiet the mind. Don't give the ego, exists in the mind, don't give it the life force that it needs to keep you in anger or fear. But just drop your thinking, drop your shoulders, come into your gut, come into your feelings, feel. It's more, your feelings are more important than your thoughts. Just allow yourself to feel again into the tender spaces of yourself and know that you're suffering and know that your heart yearns for love and for tenderness and for acknowledgement, first and foremost by you. And when that happens, all this tension starts to drop and we come back to ourselves. And when we do that, there is the arrival or the emergence of a sense of connection with something bigger than us. We have the presence of what you could say is the source of love and tenderness that reminds us that we're with something larger. We exist in a larger incubator. We exist in a larger energy. And that wants to hold us and guide us. And it wants us to be reminded that everything that we're going through, everything, if we were to eliminate the judgment of it and we would just allow it to exist, we would see that the source of life, the source of love, actually is going to use this for some greater good in us. It's going to bring us to a greater happiness, a greater wholeness. That what you're going through, no matter what the difficulty is, in the hands of the higher, in the heart of the higher, it has a positive purpose and it's leading us to something greater and more beautiful. Our mind, the ego wants to take whatever it is we're suffering and say, you did this wrong, you're to blame, you're this and that, you messed up in all these places. It wants to tick off all the ways in which we made mistakes and use them against us. But if we could allow for the possibility that we don't really understand what we're going through. You think you do. Your mind wants to believe that it understands what you're going through, and it wants to label it and judge it. And I should have done this, and I should have done that. And if only I had done this, I would have never gone on this path. All, in my view, utterly and completely wrong, inaccurate. The mind is just doing what it does through the instrument of the ego to judge us and to make us feel like we've somehow been separated from love, from the source of love. And so instead, what we want to do is to drop those judgments as much as we can, quiet the mind, come back to yourself, know that your suffering matters, your pain matters. Don't run away from it. We want to learn to hold it with compassion, and to whatever extent we can, be in the company of someone who will model that for you. No judgment, no criticism, no blame. You're not to blame for anything. And just allow to be with somebody and you start to talk about whatever it is you're going through in the presence of somebody who will hold it with you and give you that love, compassion, insight that gets you to experience that what you're going through has meaning. It has value. It's going to a higher place. It's on the path. You've never deviated from the path that God wants you on, that God has given you, and that the judgments are just speed bumps on that path. That's all they are. They're just things that we have to overcome. We have to go a little slower, get over the speed bump, and just keep going. But do it in a way that we come into some deeper compassion for ourselves. And once we've done that, yes, Irene.
No, I just wanted to jump in and maybe translate a little bit what you said for the people who don't know you, because I think I can imagine that for some people for whom this is new, I just maybe want to, if I'm going to try to say what you just said, but with different words, you know, so or maybe just try to rephrase what you just said. So in my own experience, and I don't know if other people share that, but it is my feeling that energies are extremely strong these days and extremely complicated. And there's so much confusion around and so much animosity. And it's almost as if in the wider world, we're being, we're being, if we just look at the media and these kind of things, we're being intentionally confused. And we constantly have to withstand this very intense level of confusion and not to say well, all these very complicated energies. And if I understood you correctly, what you've been saying is that instead of trying to push the suffering away and instead of pushing away the things that we are legitimately feeling, it is for us to create a space in which we can receive our inner world from a deeper, more loving and more quiet place. And if needed or if possible, also share that space with another person so that we can bring greater compassion to ourselves and to our inner journey.
Great, thank you, Irene. That's absolutely right.
So I think my question is this, for me to follow your heart, to follow one's heart, it has to do with stepping out of your comfort zone in order to pursue an idea or even your dream. It's about walking the road less traveled to a certain extent. And what I'm seeing or what I'm perceiving also with my clients is that in the current climate where there's so much fear and so much turmoil, that is being questioned even more. So when you're standing at the door or at the gate of choice, whether you should follow your heart or whether you should follow your mind, and obviously the mind has helped us throughout evolution by keeping us safe. So the mind's job is to keep us safe in very thick inverted commas. But if we then go back to our heart, so how can we navigate this journey from the mind that is supposedly trying to keep us safe towards the heart so that we pursue a path that might lead to greater fulfillment?
Right. Well, what I was trying to say and get to is that there is no there is no finding the heart again without going into the darkness. And as Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And so he says that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid their own soul. And so, and he said that one does not become enlightened by imagining, beautiful figures of light, but instead going into the darkness of oneself, bringing light to that darkness. So I don't believe that I do believe that there's a way to avoid the demands of the world and what the world would lead us into, but not without dealing with the pain that the world has enforced or inflicted upon us. And so I don't think that running from our pain is the answer. People do that in the form of drugs and alcohol and a lot of distractions, the computer and all the other stuff. People have lots of ways of avoiding their pain. So I do think that we can't do that. There's no running away and getting well and healing. And ultimately we have to forgive it. We have to forgive what's happened, what's happening right now in the world. We must forgive it. We must forgive the losses that we've suffered. And I do think that well, we'll get to making decisions from the basis of the heart, but why don't you, Irene, say more about what you think people are dealing with that they need more attention to?
Can you be more precise in your question?
Yeah, you started with saying your clients are suffering a lot from various the pains of the world. And what do you think they're needing?
Well, I think it's that. I think maybe it's also about knowing more stories where things actually work out. Because I think in our society we're so being pushed into following a very formatted path, the path of safety, right? It's always about the path of safety. What can I do so that I construct a life that protects me most? And I think that while that is very good and it is absolutely necessary, the journey doesn't end there, and there are greater questions to be asked. And for me, I'm convinced that your life grows when you step out of the comfort zone. Like this is really where things begin to change and when our life regains vitality. As I mentioned in my book, I refer to the hero's journey, and I think it's such a good metaphor or analogy in the sense that the hero has to leave their homeland because because it's just not lively anymore. It's just not fertile anymore. Nothing grows anymore, and there's no more joy, and the life force has vanished. And so the hero has to leave their homeland in order to go on a search and cross a forest and slay some dragons and do whatever a hero has to do to then gain the grail, which is like the understanding or the gift, and to bring it back to the homeland. And I think that's such a beautiful metaphor for what we're so often being asked to do, which is to leave a situation we're in, but that no longer nourishes us and that no longer brings, well, let's just say life force to our life. And then we have to set off on our journey, which is uncomfortable. It's often lonely. It often means going on an unknown path. But then it's in this quest that we grow and we change. And with this newly found wisdom and insight, we can come back to our homeland, to our inner world, and have it nourished and share the gifts with others.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think the metaphor is very, very apt, and it's great. I think when we have in our daily life, we have myriad decisions every day. We have many decisions every single day, and every week and every month. And what happens with fear and with anger and turmoil is that it speeds everything up, and it makes the priority for us safety. We do what we do, we make it on the basis of what is safe, or we, take up the habit of what we do as a safety mechanism. And also we go to sleep. We become numb and we just do things out of safety without even realizing we're doing that. We're doing things all day long. We're making choices all day long, all week long, all month long on the basis of what we think is safe, is what is prudent. And in the process, the heart gets buried under so much sense of, first of all, numbness, dullness, sleep, but also the habit of thinking only in certain terms, that safety is the top priority. And all those neural patterns that are established in the brain and the biological cascades that happen as a consequence of those neurons and neurochemicals that flood the system and trigger additional physiology as it goes. It puts the body in habits that respond to stress in certain ways. And that stress becomes the driving force for our decision making. And in the process, we lose the heart. We make decisions on the basis of stress. And stress is another word for fear and anger and conflict and the fear of unknowing. And so what we have to do is we have to be able to recognize that we have to slow down and observe and feel again without the mind, but feel into the heart, feel into our lives. Is this what I really want? What do I really want in this particular moment? This is a decision. And with what agency am I making this decision? From within myself or in something larger? Especially with big decisions, we should try to think that I'm never going to make a decision, any major decision in my life, even write down the small decisions, but I'm going to be conscious that I'm going to make a decision in partnership with something larger than myself. I'm going to feel that channel into my heart. I'm going to feel into it. I'm going to pray. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to feel. What does my heart want? What gives me joy in this moment? Think of every decision as a bifurcation. You can take one road or several roads over another. And which one gives my heart some life? Which one awakens my heart? That takes time and it takes willingness to feel. And it takes an effort to come out of fear. If we were to do that with just the big decisions, let's say whatever you consider a big decision this week, what are my big decisions this week? What am I going to do with my time? And just decide I'm going to sit a little bit, quiet my mind, drop my shoulders. I'm going to watch my breath for a little bit, and then I'm going to present the question to my heart. And to that, what the heart is a channel to the larger. And ask myself, what am I going to do with this? What should I do with this? What does my heart want? If you ask that question in sincerity and you sit with that, You'll either get the answer within the time you sit, or you'll get the answer within a day or two. The answer will come to you because basically, if you consider that we're all manifestations of what we can think of as the ether or the background energy, the energy that joins us all, this quantum field, or what traditionally is referred to as the Holy Spirit or mindfulness, that consciousness that permeates the whole universe. We are all manifestations of that, and we've never been separated from it. And the more we come into contact with that reality, the more we come into awareness of that, I'm asking the Holy Spirit, I'm asking mindfulness, I'm asking what is essentially the source within my heart, because my heart is a channel for that. Tell me what I'm asking, what do I do with this particular issue? And I'm going to wait for an answer in openness. And you will get an answer. It may not be within the next 20 minutes, but it'll be within a short period of time. You'll know instantly. You'll have a download. And this is what I'm going to do. And the more we do it from that perspective, the more we experience the connection we have with this enormous, infinite energy that Tesla called the ether, other philosophers called the ether, others have called it the Holy Spirit and mindfulness, other names, cosmic uh, consciousness, the quantum field. Whatever it is, we are connected to it. And the more we find ourselves being quieting the mind and opening, asking the question, and also saying within that quiet mind, I need help. I need help. I want to come back to you. I want my consciousness to rejoin with you. I don't want to stay in a state of separation. I don't want to stay in a state of anger. I'm willing to be healed. Heal my mind, heal my heart, heal my body, heal my life. That prayer, simple, simple prayer, will be answered. And that every single impediment or challenge that we face in any given day or week or month or whatever challenge we face is an opportunity to reconnect to the larger. And so when that happens, then you have to wonder, what does it mean to make a decision? What does it really mean? Is there such a thing as, am I making a decision? And I'd like you to hold the possibility that this is a little challenging, but let's explore it. I'd like you to hold the possibility that there are your decisions that you can make from a disconnected place. They will never bring you happiness. Or you can make it from an internal state where you connect and the decision is made for you. And your decision was to turn to the higher for the answer. And that was your decision. And that's the only decision you have. I either turn to the Holy Spirit, to mindfulness, to the ether, or I don't. That's the decision, because there is a right decision in every single moment. There is this help, support, and the learning is to come back to the oneness. I come back to the oneness in deciding if this meal is the meal for me to eat tonight, or if this walk I'm about to take is the walk or the choice for where I'm walking. I'm going to come back to the oneness in that. And so every single little decision we make or big decisions is going to be, I'm going to make it jointly with the Holy Spirit, or I'm going to make it separate from the source. That's my decision. And if I make it separate, I'm going to create more separation from myself, my interior state, and also with others. And it's just about a learning. There will not be any judgments about it, but ultimately we make more and more decisions in concert with the larger. And
Tom,
so,
right. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I mean,
I just wanted to jump in and I think it might be a nice moment to share some examples of maybe your personal life, or I'm happy to share one of my life that I didn't put into the book, but that was very relevant. That's really Yeah. So for me, it was when I was living in England, and as I described in the book, for those of you who read it, I was having panic attacks and things weren't going all that well. And I had the sense that I should be going to the countryside to study shiatsu. And from the rational mind, that made no sense whatsoever, right? I was studying politics, I was supposed to be on that journey, and everything was set for me to be on that journey. And here I was deciding to take a train to the other side of the country. I was living in London at the time. And from the rational mind, it did not make sense to go on that journey and to study a bizarre healing method on the other side in the countryside. And so I went there, I took the train there, and I still remember the first night. I stayed in this country Airbnb or pub, it was before Airbnbs, in this pub, and I was hungry. It was late at night. I was thinking that I was out of my mind for actually having gone there alone somewhere in the British countryside. And I had to leave. I had to leave the place where I was staying to have dinner. So I left the house, and it was pitch black, and I was really scared, and I was worried about what I was doing. But as I stepped out of the house, I will never forget that moment. The moon was shining. It was a full moon night, and everything was lit in this beautiful moonlight. And so the path to the closest restaurant was lit by the moon. And suddenly I knew I was going to be safe and that things would make sense. And I'm sharing that because it's just like I just want to, I think it's so important to understand this shift, at least in my experience in my life, between the place the mind is trying to keep us in. From the mind, it would have made sense for me to stay in London, possibly to take antidepressant, anxiety tablets or this kind of stuff, and just stay there and not deal with my deeper truths or what I was actually living through. And here I was, on the other side of the country, and everything was opening up. My life was opening up, my spirit was opening up. And it felt like a blessing. It felt like a blessing that came from the universe, and the energy so fundamentally shifted. So, yeah, I just felt like sharing this because it really fits what you just said, Tom.
That's a great, great story. Great story. I love it.
So, do you maybe have examples from your life without wanting to be indiscreet, but maybe you can share a story or two from, I mean, from your personal experiences with this?
Yes, certainly. Many, many, because I think every in my own journey, uh, my freedom was so important. I did not want to work for anybody. I didn't want to be told. I didn't want to fit into some machine or cog. And so I remember when Toby and I were pregnant. Toby was pregnant with our third child, and we were in California, Santa Barbara. I had just written a book about a great man, Nathan Pritikin, who helped so many people, tens of thousands of people, get well on a plant-based diet. And and so and the book was wrapped up, and I was writing books at the time, that was my living. I was being paid by publishers with these advances to be against royalties to write books, and the money had run out. And the publisher that I was writing this book for offered me a job as a writer and as an editor at this big publishing house on the East Coast. We were in California, and Toby was pregnant, and we were out of money, and they were going to move us, cover the medical costs for the birth and so forth, and just make things. There was just like this moment where it was so seductive, so tempting, security over a dream for freedom that I had been progressing on for quite a while, but we had suffered the moments, many, many moments of the unknown when book projects would run out, but the advances and the money would run out. And so here was the opportunity and the temptation to walk away from the dream of independence and instead, take this security. And Toby, she's 8 months pregnant, and of course she's worried about paying how we're gonna manage this. I had written a proposal for another book that was that we had no word about, just private to this, to the completion of this book and the completion of the current book, but also the end of the book project and the end of the money. I'd written a proposal for another project, but we had not heard anything, and we didn't know if that was going to work or not. And and Toby, she wanted me to take the job, and I didn't want to take the job. I knew that I knew that's not what I wanted, and we talked about it endlessly, you know, until finally I became very, very clear. That's one of the things that's so important for us to do, to talk about whatever it is we're feeling, whatever our fears are. Talk about them over and over again as much as you can without getting past the fear or getting past the anger. And we had talked about it repeatedly. And finally, I just came to the deep knowing I can't take this job. And she, thank God, and to her enormous credit and courage, said, "Okay, we'll see what happens. We'll go. I'll go with you." And so we did. And a few weeks later, I got another advance from a publisher, and they moved, and the money was there to move and the whole thing. And that's it happened so many times. I left my job when I was Toby was a teacher, a high school teacher when we first met. When we first actually we met in college, but when her first job, and I was a writer for a newspaper, and we left those jobs and we went to Washington D.C. and I became a freelance writer. And on the basis of nothing, we created that. I say basic basis of nothing because that was the rational life, but it was not on nothing. It was because we were being directed. And I think that what the heart does. The heart says, have faith, walk the path of faith. If your heart tells you to do something and you say no and you do something else, you do it because on the basis of fear, um, I think we end up regretting it. So I think we end up, and I know that there's every one of us here present has the dozens of these same stories. I'm sure that all of you have these same stories where you chose your heart and you did something that was completely irrational from the standpoint of, your fears and securities, and instead you did something that was purely from your heart and it worked out, and you're so glad you did. So, and these stories are so common. And one of the most common things I do in counseling, I see a lot of people for many, many years, and one of the questions I ask people is, how did you meet your partner? How did you meet your spouse or your special person in your life? And the stories are so wonderful because the timing and the synchronicities are all magic. They're just so improbable. You weren't going to go to a party, or you weren't going to go to some gathering, or you weren't going to go for a walk, and on the on that you've changed your mind for some reason and you went because your heart said just go. And on that journey, or that little walk, or that gathering, you met someone that changed your life. And so, it's like this with everybody. And everybody I talk to about asking how they meet their partner, they always tell the story with a smile on their face. They always are smiling because it's just an amazing experience, that they just know there's something childlike in the encounter, and they're happy to share that. So because the heart is so present, and the heart was what was leading us, and not the rational mind. So I think everybody has these stories. We have to reflect on them more because they are food for the heart. They are meant to be recalled and talked about, and because they are food for faith. And so we bring them up again and say, okay, there's an old song, a gospel song, that the line goes, "You didn't bring me this far to leave me now." And that's the truth. You didn't bring me this far to leave me now. And so I think that's what we all feel in some way. or at least part of us does.
Tom, could you say more on if we just take the example that you spoke about this you had this invitation to work on the East Coast for this big publisher and so on, and yet you had this inner signal. I mean, this is the very thing we're talking about. But if could you describe in a greater detail what this inner signal or signaling feels like. So how does one do that? You once, I remember many years ago, you taught us this, I think you called it soul walk or soulscape or something, that you invited us to walk into situation A, of course, in an imaginary way, and into situation B and just feel into it. Um,
Yes,
but perhaps you might want to say something more on that, just so that, because I think some people don't have that much experience with these kind of things yet, and would like to practice it a lot more.
right,
And just to give them some words or some coaching on like how can one practice this? How can one practice the yes or the no? How does one receive it? And very important link to that question, how do we know it's intuition and how do we know if it's fear? Is it conditioning? Is it intuition? Is it God? Is it fear? Like which voice is talking to us in that moment?
right. It's such a great question. And um, first of all, I want you to just hold the possibility that some part of you always knows. Um, some part of you always knows the truth, and there is only one right answer. Although no one is, there is no punishment, or there is always grace, even when we make the decision from a separated place. There's always grace, and there's always a way back to the course that is Spirit's path for us. So this is not. I don't want the people to think, okay, I dropped off the edge of the earth because I made a bad choice, because it's not true. However, there is something inside of us that knows the right answer, and I do believe there's only one answer. And so what I have found in my own life that really works is to go to a quiet place, a place where you will not be interrupted, and you'll feel safe, and you'll feel like, okay, I have all the time I need. And go there and sit and be comfortable, drop your shoulders, watch your breath, quiet your mind, feel into your body, feel into your solar plexus and your heart, because those two channels are the vagus nerve, and the autonomic nervous system together. They're the channels for a consciousness that is beyond the rational, beyond the central nervous system. And so if you just allow yourself to drop in there and bring your consciousness to that and sit and relax, and when you're really quiet, it won't take long. Watch your breath. It won't take long before your mind is really quiet. And then imagine your spirit getting up out of your body and walking into the situation that you're considering and saying yes to it. I'm going to say yes to this choice and go into that. Um, and see what your body feels like as you say yes to that choice. I'm going to go do this. Feel what that feels like in your body, and what it feels like in your cells. Don't let your mind interrupt you. Just feel what it feels like. Is there a push? Is to say that this is dangerous, or this isn't right, or if there's some negative feelings coming, if there's some kind of fear that comes with that, just feel into that. Generally, there won't be fear one way or the other. What there'll be is some other sensation. If it's no, to say, don't do this, because there's some kind of energy that tells you no. And very often there's images with it. I'll give you an experience, a specific experience in a minute. Or do the same exercise and say, I'm going to do it. And then, and if it feels like it's good, it opens up, there's light, you're relaxed, you're excited, you're feeling your heart awaken and open, and there's joy with it, and it says yes. And that's your decision. That is what's informing you. I once I do this I do this regularly whenever I face something. But once I did it many, many years ago, in which there was a project. I wanted to do the project. There was a lot of there was a lot of what you could say is social status uh, perks with it. And so it was a book project. And so I did this. I sat in my room and I quieted my mind and I did the exercise, got quiet, breathed, watched my breath, felt into my center. And then I got up energetically and I said yes to the project. And I walked into this place where I was saying yes and I was going to be doing the project. And what came to me was that it was like going into a buzzsaw. The image was so negative, so aggressive, so negative, and it was just coming at me. And it was a decision that, was telling me, don't do that. Don't do that. I did this once before many, many years ago when I was much younger. I got this loud no, and in both cases I said yes, and I did it, and much to my regret, uh, that was telling me the truth. It was telling me don't do this, don't do this project. Just and I did it, and of course it was the wrong decision. Um, the difference between the, let's say, the intuitive or fear-based information, what is really truly intuition, is I don't trust what people refer to as the inner voice. That is not, I don't think that's how we are communicated with. What I think is much more common, although you can get that, what I think is much more common is an inner knowing that comes as an instantaneous download because you remember that there's no time in the fifth dimension. And so it's everything is instantaneous. Everything is the immediate now. And when you're in that space, you know in every particle of your body, every cell, every fiber of your energy body, you know instantly. And you also know that there's been a download and there you feel a fullness and you want to give words to it. And you, 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 uh, essentially have been informed in every cell of your body. You know that this is what's true, what's right. And so that is how it's most commonly communicated with us. And so in and in the Course of Miracles, always Christ says very, very clearly, he states that he says, the ego always speaks first. And that's true. That's absolutely true. The ego speaks first and it speaks loudest. That's what happens. It will tell you, yes, do this, or yes, no, don't do that. It will speak to you in words, but it will not give you a physical or somatic experience. It will not give you an in the body experience. It will not give you joy. It will not give you clarity. It will not tell you that's not a path you should be walking down. And that knowing is knowing in your body, because it's the autonomic nervous system that knows. It's the heart that knows. That channel, the fourth and the third channel, the fourth and third chakra are lit up, and then the rest of the body reacts to that knowing, and it's shared with the rest of the body. So I think when you become quiet and you feel into your body and and once you know, you may not know what to say next, but if you just start talking, you will have the knowledge of what to say. You will have this knowing that you're speaking and it'll become more and more clear to you and everything will unfold and you'll get it. So that's my experience. It's true that sometimes there are words and that early experience when I was very young and I had heard that word no, that's true. It came through and it was the correct answer. Um, but most often it's that visceral experience that one has that says, okay, this is what I have to do.
Thank you, Tom. That was a great explanation. I'm just reading through the comments, and someone asked what is meant by the word download. So the way I understand is the download is that you sit, you ask your question, and you wait to receive the information that your body or your spirit and your heart is informing you. Well, is the choice is which direction you're supposed to take. Well, it's the would you define it differently, Tom, the word download?
No, I think that's absolutely true, except that there's always an experience of love with it. There's always an experience that nothing comes to us on the basis of when it comes from that dimension, it always comes with love.
Mhm. Okay.
So there's inspiration with it.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to point out that the first hour is already more or less over, and I had advertised it as a 1 hour talk, but Tom and me, we agreed, or Tom, said he'd be happy to go over time. So if obviously, if people need to leave, you're welcome to leave, but we're going to continue. And yeah, and we already have the first question here from Maria. Maria, go for it. And you have to unmute yourself, yeah, to ask your question.
Yeah, okay. No, it was not a question, it was an addition to what we were talking about. For me, the decision maker is a certain surrender to the fear I have. When I have to make a decision to find my heart, um, my decision of the heart, I have to surrender to my fear and to say, I'm afraid, but still, what do I want? And when I surrender to that fear, open, I can feel it. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. I think we find a way. We find a way to. We all have our way of knowing the truth. But no one is deprived from knowing what the truth is, the inner truth. So that's wonderful to hear, Maria.
Someone is asking, the question here is the heart always the first channel? Maybe Miriam, can you maybe come on to ask your own question? The heart is always the first channel, and then it shares with the whole body. So I th is the question. I think the question is, do we receive the information first in the heart, and then it's received by the rest of the body? That's how I understand the question. If it's wrong, Miriam, please, you can speak up.
Indeed. Do you
Ah,
hear me? Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I think Tom said this, but I was not sure if it indeed was the heart, which is the first channel. I think so, but I wanted to check I had heard properly what he said. I think he
And
said
what?
something
Yes,
like this. Mhm.
yes, Miriam. I would like to find you on the.
Sorry, yeah, I need to put on the
No, it's okay. No,
camera.
that's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. I just
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, yes, and in fact, there's research on this. There's an institute called HeartMath. Maybe some of you have heard of it, and they've done research on this to find out where intuition, not so much where it comes from, but what is the physical experience of it. And they have discovered that the heart gets the impulse first and then sends it to the brain. I really believe that the microbiome, which is the second brain, it's the microbiome joined with the enteric nervous system, the nervous system in the gut, is the source, is the receiver of the intuition. There's 10 trillion living beings living in our gut, and they are so tiny, and they're so joined as an interface between vibration frequencies and physicality. They're tiny physicality, but they're much more, they're energetic. They're the interface between energy and the physical, one of them, but they are there in the gut, and they are receiving all this information constantly. And when your microbiome is dominated by friendly flora, health producing flora, what happens is it's always committed to working with you and making your life, directing your life on every level. Physically, of course, it's everywhere. The microbiome is functioning in every single part of your body, physically and your energetic body. But it's also it's in a living intelligence that informs us. And so it comes from the gut, and also the third chakra and the heart. Those three centers are very, very suddenly active and alive. They're informed, and we know it. And we're trying to constantly cultivate that. And yes, it's experienced in the heart because that's the joy center. This is a gift of joy to you. This is a gift from us, from the fifth dimension, from the source of love to you, that you know what what to do, because we never leave you. We never leave you alone. There is no such thing as being alone. You can choose it. which we do on the basis of fear and confusion and all the things we're being assaulted by every day. But nonetheless, we can work at restoring that connection, and that comes from the heart and it comes with love. And that's very often where we find it first. The research on the microbiome, by the way, is that 80 to 90% of the information on what is called the gut-brain axis, this highway between the gut and the brain, 80 to 90% of the information flows from the gut to the brain, not brain to gut. So this overwhelming amount of information flowing is from the lower to the higher. And that is intuition and also all this healing commands from these microbes. So it's part of the intuition package that is flowing to us from below.
Tom, you have something like 40 to 50 years of experience in the healing realm, right? Like working with people and inspiring people and guiding people to do just that. So is there something that you wish people would do more? Is there one thing where you just think, oh gosh, I just wish people would engage? Or maybe it's just that, it's the very thing we're talking about.
Yes, but I wish that we had more. I think one of the things that darkness that is attempting. There was I'm just going to give you a little story about, Medjugorje was a place that in the 80s and 90s, I'm sure you remember that or have heard about it, that the Holy Mother was appearing to these children. And one of the messages from Medjugorje to now these children are, of course, adults and senior people, but one of the messages at the time was that the mother said, Satan is going to make a big effort at gaining control of the human race. And you must fight that. You must overcome that. And so I think that was true. I think that was a warning to us. And so it was this darkness is prevailing, it's wanting to create separation within ourselves, it wants to separate us from our hearts. That's what it's most terrified of. Separate us from love, separate us from connection, from a deeper knowing. And so we must, we're asking that we not give into fear, but we have to do what we can do to avoid being controlled by fear and controlled by anger and being controlled by conflict and letting that prevail in our lives. And very often what we really need is friendship, is family, and very often families are split because of the politics of the moment and the conflicts that people are experiencing. But to the best of our ability to sustain friendships and community groups like this, to me, it's essential. And to combat fear and separation, and to share our hearts with each other, knowing that whatever you're suffering from, you're way more than that, whatever you're suffering, and that that more wants to address that pain. So I think it's very important to share our suffering, share our pain with each other, to have communities like this, to engage with healers, and take all that we're suffering from in today's world seriously. To say, okay, I need care. I need care. I need to be addressing whatever is going on for me. Isolation is a bad thing in this moment. Isolation is not the thing to be doing. I understand that trust is hard to come by for many of us today, but to the extent that you can find groups where you trust and you feel, and your body will tell you, do I feel safe here? And you don't have to do anything more than just take it in for the time being, but it's essential, and I wish we would do more of this. And so, I'd like that to happen more healers, more trust, more care, everyone getting more care and more sharing their burdens, their pain with each other.
Tom, thank you. I'm just following also what's happening in the chat, and really interesting questions are coming in. I want to pick up on one of the questions by Natasha. She's asking if we have a problem, because I think it's going to speak to lots of people. If we have a problem with our microbiome and have taken all the physical steps to improve it, what else can we do?
Yes. Well, first of all, we should question the physical steps that we've taken. Okay. Um, because dominating what the microbiome needs above everything else is plants, is vegetables, beans, grains, and fermented foods, not necessarily supplements, but fermented foods. We need to be able to take care of our gut with plant foods, grains and vegetables, beans, soups of various kinds. And we also need wide variety. The microbiome needs to be diverse. 30 different plant foods a week is what is recommended. So we want to really, if you eat a narrow diet that includes plants and animal foods, but it's not a wide variety of plants, we really does, the microbiome does suffer. Um, the microbiome really reacts to your environment. Your microbiome expands into your home and into your office and your workplace. Your microbiome extends far beyond your body. And to the places you frequent a lot or you work in, or your home, your microbiome is there. If your environment is chaotic, you have to create some kind of order in it because that's going to impact your microbiome. So you create order, you keep it clean, you let the energy flow much more freely, and that will help your gut. And also pay attention to your gut because sometimes you move into a space and you don't feel right. You go into a place, I don't feel right. Your microbiome is telling you the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, the the uh, the products of that fungi, um, they don't they don't resonate with me. Those frequencies do not resonate with me. Do not dishonor that information. If you're in a space where you don't feel good, uh, listen to it. Listen to it because it's trying to tell you. Um, and of course, with stress, um, you want to listen to the stress, and you want to understand that fear is going to hurt the microbiome. It makes pathogenic flora multiply because they live on hormones, uh, um, all kinds of stress-based hormones, and so you want to be paying attention to that. And so as much as you can be present, feel what you're feeling, feel about the environment, you feel what your space is. If it doesn't feel good in in a space where you frequent a lot or your home, work at getting clutter out because of course that's a place where lots of bacteria accumulate. They can very often be pathogenic bacteria, and your microbiome is trying to tell you that you need to clean that space, to clear that space. So we want to do that. And then, of course, in your relationships, when you're with someone and the energies between the two of you are um, in conflict consistently, as much as you can, feed the moment with what feels like to you love or compassion or seeing the better in the other, seeing the goodness in the other. Try to overcome the temptation to go into conflict with that person, but instead see the better in the moment, see the better in the person, see the person as healed, feel into yourself as healed, and feed the moment with something positive. Because what there's a great temptation in relationships today is to descend into hate. And there's really no other, of course, we could use more milder words like descend into anger or fear and this sort of thing, but people want to They want to go into hate. And in our country, in the US, it's so prevalent. It's everywhere. People say they hate this one or this politician or that one. And what I oftentimes want to say is that just drop the name after I hate so and so and just say I hate and just look at that because that's a poison that we are succumbing to and we're poisoning ourselves. That anger we feel toward another, that's a poison for ourselves. And so we want to look at that as much as possible. So yes, I think all those areas where microbiome is supported or not.
I should have renamed the talk to follow your gut instead of follow your heart, the two
Your
almost.
gut speaks to your heart.
Okay. So there are many, many, many questions coming in, but I think I want to invite people later on to ask their own questions. 1 second, let me just look at what I had prepared. Yeah, one question I really wanted to address during this talk is mental health and the question of how can we take care of our mental health in this day and age. And obviously we have like this young COVID generation, that were locked in during, with all the lockdowns and so on that are now growing up and have social phobias and have lots of anxiety. I work with many, many mothers in particular, whose sons are struggling, so young men. That might just be a personal observation, but it just seems something that seems to be quite prevalent. Could you maybe say something about that, like men struggling to find their place in this world these days, or just, I mean, is this also an observation you share, and do you have recommendations for it? Because, or maybe it's just, but I don't think it's a coincidence. Like I've spoken to many mothers who struggle with their oftentimes almost grown-up sons and who are just not, walking out of the home and staying there and just feeling lost and shutting down more and more and more.
The generation known as Gen Z, 12 years old to 28, they're really suffering. They're a very special group of people, and they're really suffering. In the US, 46% of the Gen Z generation, 46% of the people in that age group have been diagnosed with a mental illness. So half have been, and it most commonly is depression, anxiety, or ADHD, but there's more severe illnesses. And in California, 87% of people in that age group say they are struggling with some kind of mental challenge, and mental health is in trouble. So we've got the future is in their hands, and they're struggling. I think it's difficult to look at the world today, especially for young men, and for them to see positive role models. It's because people are really suffering. The generations older than them are really suffering. The world seems to be crowding in on them, and they lose track of what's possible for them. And so I also deal with a lot of young people. And let's imagine that in every one of us, there is this part of us that believes in everything good. There's a part of us that won't die, that will never die. It believes in everything that's good. It believes in peace, and it believes in love, and it believes in problem solving. We can solve this. And it's confronted within us by a part of us that says nothing's going to work out. And there's cynicism, and there's darkness, and there's fear, and there's anger, and there's bitterness, and there's hate. And that war is going on in every one of us. And I think when the younger generation sees that and feels it vicariously, they participate in our drama. They don't see the resolution of that dilemma. the part of us that hopes and loves and still believes and still has faith, and the part of us that feels victimized and powerless and overcome with the negatives. And so we have to be better role models. We have to believe that there is resolution, that this is a moment where I don't think we're going to be able to do this on our own. This is a time where spiritual renewal must happen for every one of us. Are you ready to surrender to listening? Are we ready to listen again to what is higher in all of us, the better in all of us, and then walk that path? As we resolve that question, am I ready to listen again? Am I ready to return to faith? Am I ready to return to the positive? We model something, but we also begin to believe, not just in ourselves, but in them. Like so many kids today, young people, are being raised by people who don't believe in themselves, don't believe in the culture anymore, don't believe in anything, and don't believe in them. And they are very sensitive to this. And so for young men, and I think this is, you just hold this as a possibility. You see, what young men really need is they need a holy grail. They need something. Young men are basically knights. Every single one of them. They have some kind of invention. They have creativity. They have something they want to do. They want to pursue something. And when it's buried under all this negativity and all this fear and then the chaos of the world, they can't actually connect with that again. They can't reach it. And so they just sort of go into the video and screens, and they just want to disappear into that. And what we have to do is believe in them again. It's very, very important to start with the food. We must eat well. 62% of the calories consumed by young people today are ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed means they have no nutritional value whatsoever. They have no fiber. They have no nutrition. They have no polyphenols. They have no phytochemicals that would give them the basis for a healthy microbiome. We're destroying the microbiome with the food. That's foundational. On the other hand, within 2 weeks, the microbiome can be recovered. If one eats better for a 2-week period, for a month period, and this is the research, it can transform the microbiome. And there are chemicals in the microbiome. There are bacteria in the microbiome that actually produce metabolites, one of which is called butyrate, Butyyrate, butyrate. Please look it up. It does everything. It changes brain chemistry. It's an antidepressant, anti-anxiety. It heals the gut. It heals, the whole system. And it prevents inflammation, because that's what's happening. There's so much inflammation in these young people's gut that must be addressed. And so let's say that the food is changed and improved. And butyrate and other metabolites start to proliferate from a very healthy gut, which can happen. I could cite some research, incredible research. There was a study done by the University of Pittsburgh scientists that compared 20 African Americans with 20 South Africans on their plant-based diet. They swapped South Africans, their traditional diet, which is a plant-based diet, 20 Americans on the standard American diet. They swapped, and they did microbiome testing before. They did a full testing, colonoscopies. They did lots of testing. The Americans started out so sick. They were on the verge of colon cancer, prostate cancer. They were riddled with pathogenic flora, but also all these metabolites that create diseases, very serious diseases, including various cancers. And the South Africans had none of those conditions. They swapped, and in 2 weeks, the Americans were healthy and the South Africans were sick. University of Pittsburgh. So it's an astounding study in 2 weeks. And so we've got to heal the kids on young people on the level of their diet and their physical health. We've got to do that. And we've got to start to believe in them. We've got to believe in them. You are the answer to the world. And what you have to give to the world, your special gift, your very special talents are what's going to change this world for the better. And so I think that the food and this resolution of what we do, we have to believe again. We have to believe in what's better in us as adults. We have to believe in them, what's great and beautiful in them. We have to be willing to listen to them. They have to talk because they have to get used to being heard because they're not used to being heard, and then they clam up. And when young men do that, they get into the habit of not speaking because it's very easy. It's very challenging for anyone to speak about their inner life. And when they start to speak about their inner life, they speak about the pain, but also the judgments they have around the pain. I shouldn't feel like this. No, what you feel is true and right. And so much of what they feel comes out of this nihilistic butyrate. That's right, Ward. Butyrate. That's right. Please look that up on Google butyrate. Thank you, Ward. So they're inheriting a nihilistic point of view, a universe that's moving toward AI and robots and the loss of humanity. So we're moving in that direction, and unfortunately, they're being infected by it. But we must grow their humanity again, and we must start by their health, their diet, and believing in them, and believing they have a special gift to give, and that is their grail. That is their holy grail that they have to bring into the world.
Thank you, Tom. I'm just running through the questions here. Are there people now? Is there someone who would like to ask a question directly without me reading them from the chat? Is there someone who would like to raise their hand and just come forward? And many people are writing the questions, but it would be great to just hear them from you directly. If not, okay, then I'll just
Yes.
go. Okay, so wait, Martin raised his hand. Let's have Martin.
Also, I think Julie did too.
Yeah, Julie comes just after.
Okay, great.
I see them appear on my screen here.
Yeah,
Martin, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you, Tom, for all the love and all the care and all the listening and all the wisdom. I wanted to ask you this interaction between the personal and the collective. You've talked a lot about the damages that isolation produces. Indeed, in social sciences, you see that this is one of the surest predictors for fascism, actually, but hatred more broadly, and it speaks to the fear. And if anything, that is really the plague of our times. And there's a lot of course, business to be made out of isolation, because then you have a lot of needs. But we need to break that. And it's difficult because we are all very much trained to form ourselves as individuals. And a lot of what you're talking about, which resonates a lot, but is also healing at the personal level. And I assume that the assumption is that when you become a better person yourself, you become better with others, and therefore you rebuild these links that we so direly need. But don't we need something else as well?
Yes. Yes, Martin, you raise the essential point. Let's hold the possibility that you will never know the higher in yourself without the presence of another person in your life whom you can love and see the better in them. In other words, let's say that, and I think Martin was alluding to this or stated it clearly. He did say it clearly that there's a temptation to be in isolation, to see work on yourself. I got to work on myself. I've got to be a better person. But imagine that isolation and working on oneself actually does not allow you to experience your potential in terms and your power in terms of what you can transmit to another person, what you can make another person feel. When you love another person, when you give a kindness to another person, whenever you uplift another person, or you just recognize something beautiful in another person, that act inspires the higher in you. Just as when you're angry with another person, the act of the anger in you is a poison within you. Now, I'm saying chronic anger. You could be angry momentarily, and that can be a passing thing because it is an alarm to change the circumstances. But if you are giving or supporting another person with your love in whatever form, compassion, kindness, empathy, holding the space in love, holding the space in non-judgment, whatever it is you do, you are actually elevating that person's condition, and you're experiencing the higher in you. The power is with you. And so in the Course, of course, the Course in Miracles, it says your brother or your sister is your savior. They don't mean to say, he doesn't mean to say that that person is saving you by what they give you. You're saving them and yourself by being that person who elevates that person. And so let's say, you know, we had 62 people here today. It was just awesome and wonderful. Let's say we all, in some way, started thinking, my purpose today is to experience the higher in myself by, whenever possible, even if it's just a smile or a gentle word or something that you know is coming from the frequencies of your heart, to elevate another person. That's my purpose today. Among the other purposes, I'm going to do that in my life. And what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself, what the Course states very clearly is the Christ in you awakens. The higher in you awakens. The more you support others in these very gentle, almost these unobtrusive ways, these ways that seem almost are so gentle and so benign, and yet they're so powerful that and so effective, that your day went through changing your life by changing another. So I think we have to be willing to say we are above everything else a collective. Yes, it's true. We are responsible for our own individual growth. But what is the process? What is the path for that? And the path is, it sounds like a cliche, I'm sorry, but it is to love one another in whatever form that may manifest, that feels right to you, and to reject one another. To reject one another is the path to hell. To make another feel lower, smaller, weaker, that's not the path. That's not the way. And so our work is very, very simple. It can be so gentle. It doesn't have to be a big band going through down the street. It can be so gentle and very, very effective. And you'll see how you feel doing that. Your self-love will multiply. Anyway, Martin, thank you. I hope that was answering your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. And we had a question from Julie.
Yes. Thank you, Tom, for this inspiring talk. So very nice. Thank you, Ren, for the
Thank you for
invitation.
being here.
I was wondering if everyone that is here on this planet is capable to finding this way to the heart. What I mean is that what I'm experiencing is that some people are less sensitive or more sensitive than some persons. And in order to connect to the heart, my feeling is that it is important to understand our own emotions, to be able to make the difference between fear, joy, and so on. And so my question is everyone capable of finding this way, even if they are less sensitive?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
The answer is absolutely yes. And the degree of sensitivity will change over time. Let's hold the possibility. I know this is very challenging for all of us. We could say, oh, how is it possible that people who are doing these terrible things are on a path to the higher? How's that possible? And we can refute that very easily just by making a list of all the terrible things they're doing. But if you were to do that, let's say you were to say, okay, so and so is not sensitive, right? And I must act accordingly. The ego wants to use that as the basis for rejecting so and so. That rejection, you can't reject somebody else without rejecting yourself. It's not possible. That's the thing we're trying to learn at this moment, that we're so unified that criticizing another is criticizing ourselves. Being in conflict with another is being in conflict with ourselves. That's what's happening at the moment. There's this huge bifurcation between those people who will choose a path to the higher versus those who are just going to get caught up with hate and anger, rejection and fear, and that will be what happens to us internally. And so, judging another person, whether they're sensitive or not sensitive, isn't the final statement. Your wisdom to say, okay, so and so seems like they're not sensitive to some of the things I'm saying or my presence, but I think I can reach them another way, or I can reach them in a gentle way, or I can be present in myself and feel positive about that person. I can see the higher in that person. Try this as an experiment. Be in the presence of somebody and see the higher in them, see the better in them. Don't say a word, or don't say anything that's not part of normal conversation, but just see the higher in them and see what it does to them. If you see the higher in them, they're going to know you see the higher in them. And you don't have to say anything. Just speak to them because that is implicit. The frequencies of that where you're standing are going to be in every single word you say, even if it's about the weather.
Yeah.
You are a beautiful being, right? And you're really talking about the weather. Oh, I see the good in you. See what it does to your chemistry. Well, what happens to you when you talk to somebody like that? It's a very powerful thing and it changes a lot. So I would say if you see somebody that you know they're sort of sleeping and they're not particularly sensitive, try it. Try the experiment.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this talk is inspiring lots and lots of people today. We had a question by Fauzia. Oh no, actually CP. Sorry, CP has been raising the hand. I don't know who that is. So maybe CP, if you would like to ask a question.
Also, Ignacia at some point will come back.
It's Clara.
Sorry.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Can you put on your camera, or if you don't want to, you don't have to.
I prefer not to if it's not a problem. I'm really shy.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask, you talk about feeling the right decision, and that, for example, when you were younger, you made some mistake because you didn't listen to yourself. And I am in this situation right now. Like I know I have the impression I've heard this like voice saying, no, this is not the right choice, but I couldn't listen to it. So how do you learn to listen to what you feel, to your body, to your heart, to what it's better to do?
Yes. Yes, it's such a great and important question. Hold the possibility. I know this is challenging, but hold the possibility that you're holding something against yourself, that you made a mistake, and you believe that ego wants you to believe that the mistake is irrevocable. It cannot be remedied. There's no going back and changing this mistake. That's entirely untrue. The mistake can be made to have great value in your life. There's so much to learn about what we're calling a mistake. And that one of those lessons to be learned is that you must forgive yourself for what you think you did. You must forgive yourself. And you must do that in a couple different ways. I'm just going to very briefly. The more you forgive others, the more you forgive yourself. You experience forgiveness by forgiving another. So let's say that the person you made a mistake with, if it's a person, you forgive that person. You forgive that person and you experience forgiveness for yourself. You forgive the younger woman who made that mistake. You forgive. And you know that in the forgiving, you are going some alchemical thing that's in you and in the larger energy that you are held in and are part of actually transforms you to make that mistake of great, great value. That's how we learn. But if we say it's permanent, it's finished. I made a mistake. There's no going back because there's no going back in time. That's wrong. You heal the past by healing the present. That's just experience. That's my experience. Whatever we did, we all make these incredible mistakes. Let's face it. Every one of us. And by forgiving others, it's in the Lord's Prayer. That wisdom of that prayer never ceases to amaze me. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That is not some glorified poetry. That's the law. He was teaching us the law. As we forgive others, we are forgiven. We forgive ourselves. So that's the order of the universe. And so what we want to do is just practice forgiveness of others as much as you can. Forgive every little thing. And when you're in the shower and you got the voice going on, that so-and-so did this to me, or so-and-so did that to me, or you're victimizing yourself with your memory, come back to your breath, forgive, come back to your breath. I forgive so-and-so. I forgive my mother. I forgive my father. I forgive them. I love you. I love you, mother. I love you, father. I forgive you. And you will feel better. Feel the water on you if you're in the shower. Feel the air when you're walking. The inner world is constantly trying to be poisoned by memories of quote unquote mistakes we made that are not really mistakes at all, but they feel like mistakes to us. Forgive it, forgive the person who participated in that moment. You'll forgive yourself and you'll be cleared of that. Once we start to process that forgiveness, it's very, very important to share the pain of that decision with another, not somebody who's going to criticize you or think you did the wrong thing or reinforce the mistake, but just share with another who holds you in that space, holds you in that place of understanding or compassion, of non-judgment, and lets you revisit it. The Super Bowl in the US just happened. I'm sure everybody knows that, right? Our team, the New England Patriots, lost. Okay. It's 2 weeks ago. People are still talking about the Super Bowl, right? Why? They're processing the loss. I'm sure that in your sports, your team loses, people feel it. The whole country feels it. They're processing the loss. In the Jewish tradition, when people lose somebody, they sit shiva for 10 days. Means they don't cook, they don't do anything. Friends bring meals, and they only talk about their loved one. And they grieve for a year. That they talk about their loved one, they talk about the experience, we talk about our grieving, we grieve the losses. We must grieve the mistakes we think we made. And we go over it. We must not bury them. Oh, I made these mistakes, I did this and that. It just festers inside of us. Revisit it, share it, write about it. There was this American researcher called by the name of Penny Baker, and he he did this research about people who write about their experiences, their painful experiences for 4 days for 20 minutes a day. And what he did was he did immune testing and other tests, biological tests at the outset of the experiment, and then he conducted the experiment. He was a professor at a big university, so he had these big classes. And he did these experiments with the kids, with the students, and in 4 days, the tests went from low immune, low life condition, all these blood parameters, hormone parameters on one end, all these positive parameters on the other, after 4 days of writing about some terrible thing that happened to them, some terrible mistake they made, things they never shared with anybody, they were healthier. So to whatever extent possible, share your mistake, what you think is a mistake, revisit it, and you'll see that it starts to dissolve. Its hold on you is weakened. Why? Because you bring light to it. You bring light, consciousness to the mistake, and it dissolves. And that's what we must do. As Jung said, the unconscious must be made conscious in order for us to heal. That's it in a nutshell. That's healing in a nutshell. We bring the pain to to consciousness, to the light, and we are healed by it. So, CP, please, that's a path to forgiveness of self and to release from whatever we think of as a mistake.
How beautiful. And I'm sure that that speaks to many, many, many people. I think many people can resonate, right? How can we forgive ourselves in our own past? So yes. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for the answer.
Thank you, CP, for that question.
So Ignacia is raising her hand. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Tom, I would like to come back to what you just spoke before this answer. When you're facing a person, in this case, my partner, who is always raving, criticizing, he reads the news and then he starts raving about it and the stupid politicians, and he goes on and on and on. And I find it so disturbing. And then sometimes I say, please let it go. And he criticizes a lot on all sorts of things that, so in that way we cannot do anything about it, but it sucks my energy. And sometimes he also criticizes me, and then I really have to put him on a stop and say, stop this, I don't want you to speak to me like this. How do I, and then I get angry. So how do I get about in going in a more loving way? I think I know what triggers me. I think my partner Jan triggers the old hurt of my brother's pestering in me. That I figured out, and I think I see you nodding, so I think that's right. But I have a big problem transforming this into something positive, and in a way transmitting to him a more positive, loving energy, because actually my loving energy is going down in this way. We know each other 3 years now, but I'm sometimes so fed up. We only see each other in the weekend, luckily, in a way. So do you have suggestions for me?
Yes, yes. Here's the thing. Let's imagine that all experience is internal and subjective. Everything. You may think that politicians live outside of you, but in fact, they live inside of us. Everything lives inside of us. And so it's all subjective, it's interpretation. And so we could say about that if I am brought down by external events, it's because, in effect, there is a conflict in me that I'm not reconciling, meaning I feel victimized by this politician or that politician, or these policies or that policy. They both exist in us. The part of us that's victimized by it, wounded by it, and the forces of political darkness that are just hurting him, right? Or hurting any one of us. Okay?
Hurting him. Yeah, he gets very upset. Often.
Yes, they're hurting him. And meantime, it's happening in an environment where he doesn't have any compassion for himself. He doesn't go to the hurt. He just goes to the anger, which hurts him further. So let's say that he's absolutely right. Let's say that this political
Yeah.
decision is true. Okay. You're right. What, tell me his name again. I know.
Jan.
Jan, yes. You're right, Jan. You're right, Jan. But let us imagine that what is happening to you is an infection that you must overcome through the powers of your love and your heart and your compassion for yourself and compassion for the world. You must reconcile this conflict that's in yourself. You're not going to reconcile it with the politicians. The world is not going to change for us to feel better internally. That's not going to happen. The world is a reflection of what our internal state. The inner is more important than the outer. I know that's a very hard thing to accept, but in fact, it's right.
For him, yeah.
For any of us,
For
okay?
any of us, but yeah.
Okay, the inner is more important. Everything's a reflection of the inner world. So let's say that you reconcile this. Let's say you transcend this. Let's say that you forgive so-and-so. Let's say we forgive Fauci in ourself. Doesn't mean they shouldn't be brought to justice or this or that. Let's leave that to whatever the course of history will do. But let's say I no longer am battling with this politician or that public health official, whatever. I'm no longer battling with them internally. In fact, I'm at peace with them because what's really happening is they're trying to learn something. They're all trying to learn something. Every one of them, even as they do selfish, stupid, venal, and oftentimes violent things, they're trying to learn something. If I'm at peace with that reality, meaning if I've reconciled that in myself, I am no longer under the influence of their journey. I'm under the influence of my journey. My journey is to reconcile as much of life within myself as I can, come to peace with it. There is a place within us, every one of us, that looks at the world and says, I don't live on the frequencies of violence, of ignorance, stupidity, violence. I don't live on those frequencies. And because I don't, I let those things happen for that person's learning in worlds in a realm that they are bound to. They're bound to. They have to play in that playground where all those things are possible. And I don't play in those playgrounds. And I cleanse my own inner world of that so that I let them have their lessons, but I don't participate in those lessons because they're not my lessons. And to the extent that I'm able to do that, I find peace in myself. I don't have to change them, and the world doesn't, they don't have to change for my happiness. Okay, so what happens? Where do I find my happiness? If I'm Jan, I find it with you. I find it in my work. I find it in my world. All of a sudden, he'll look at his world. His world is good. His world is good. His world, he fills up his world with a lot of things that he's not seeing because he's filtering everything through the anger and the fear that he's experiencing because of this politician or that one. Well, let's imagine that those filters started to get weaker. And he started to see his world for what it is. I have this wonderful woman. I have these wonderful friends. I have a world in which I can do what I can do in this world. And that's my job. That's my work. In other words, something lights up in him and he awakens to all that's been given to him. I didn't make this world so you could have to deal with the politicians. You can be absorbed into it, but I didn't make your world for that. something higher in him says to him. But you can be dragged into that world if you want to, but that's not where you belong because those are not your challenges. Can you see that?
Yes, and what I hear foremost is that my challenge is to stay more in my inner world as I used to do, and not being dragged out into into his part, and stay in my own loving part towards him in a way. And the quiet part, sort of as you say, saying, what if we cannot, sometimes I say, well, we cannot change this here. We can only change ourselves and how we behave, but it doesn't seem to, the words I use are not the right words for him because they don't get in.
Say this to him. Try this. Jan, you have power in your world. You have power. He feels powerless in relationship to the political situation, as everyone does, most people. But you have power in your world, and your power is from your love, from your heart, from your creativity, from your compassion, from your understanding of people. That's where your power is. Use your power where you can. If you insist that you have to have power in a world where you have no power, you're going to experience no power. And that's going to be very frustrating for you. You understand?
Yeah, but I don't think he experiences much power because he takes care of his old parents as well, and his mother is quite
He can take care of his parents with the power of love.
yeah.
He can
His
take
mother is
care of,
quite dictatorial.
I understand, but you could say to him, what you're doing for your mother is going to
Yeah,
resonate for lifetimes.
yeah.
The gift you're giving her is incredible.
I say that several times, that how lucky they are that he actually sacrifices part of his life to take care of his parents.
And then when he rejects that, say, why do you reject the love you're giving? Why do you reject yourself with all the good you're doing? Because without you, they're lost.
Yeah, correctly. Yeah.
So you say, look at that. Look at the place where you have to grow. You have to grow in the place where you're giving all this love and you're giving all this support, and you don't want to acknowledge that your gift is enormous. Why do you diminish it? Look at that. Because you're a much better man than what you're giving yourself credit for.
Empower him.
Empower him, lift him up, see the better in him, make him see the better in him.
Okay.
That's what we all need. We need to be reminded of the good we're doing in the world.
I need that too sometimes, but I don't get it.
The more you'll create the circle. Your job is to create the circle, right? You'll give it to him, he'll give it to you.
Yeah.
All the kindnesses he gives, you give every single day. All the sincere little blessings that you give, these are the true measures of who we are in the world. All the things, the wonderful things you do for every single person you encounter, this is what you will be remembered for on the other side. Because as the Course makes very clear, they've all been stored up for us. They're waiting for us to be blessed by those experiences.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Ignacia.
Thank you, Tom. I'm looking at the time, and I'm just becoming very aware that the 2 hours are almost up. For me, really, Tom, it strikes me every single time. I mean, I know you for over 15 years. Like I don't even know how long, 16 years, 17 years, and it's almost like the hit I get every single time when you speak is like it's a return to love. Like you remind us every single time that the key in the end, as cliche or as superficial as it sounds, but the key is love, and it's just to return to that frequency and just to the gateway is there, the key is there, and the opening is there, and the solution is there. And I'm always amazed by. I almost want to say, like, how can we forget that? Because we do forget, or like day-to-day life makes us forget. And so I think again, even today, today was yet another example of how valuable this is, of just being together and opening that channel again, and to be reminded what it's about.
Yeah.
It's interesting about to use the word reminded because it's in us all. That's the right word. Be reminded because it's in us all. And we just have to practice it. That's all we're meant to do. And just in whatever ways, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Whatever ways you need to engage in the practice of love in all the practical ways, all the many ways you enjoy your life. You know, you're feeding the birds and how beautiful they are, right? You're making projects, you're doing these wonderful things you enjoy doing. You're in service to every little moment as much as you can be during the day. Even a smile is an act of love. All the things we do in these little ways that are so powerful, it reinforces this awareness. Okay, this is the purpose for our lives. This is why we're here. This is what we're meant to do. And as you say, remind me, because all we're doing is recalling, oh yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So simple and yet so complicated on some level.
We forget that there's tremendous power in it. We forget that there's incredible power in it. We're here to learn that power.
I don't know if there's anyone who still has the teeniest, tiniest question. Otherwise, we're slowly going to wrap up here. Tom, is there something you would still like to say to close this circle?
Well, what a gift it is for us to be together and to share love with each other. Wow. I feel utterly blessed to be with you all. And I thank you with all my heart for this time together. It's a beautiful thing.
Ignacio? Yeah.
Yes, Irene, I would like to thank you for organizing this. It's amazing. Thank you, Tom. It's amazing to be together again and to have this circle of sharing. My heart goes like jung, 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 jung now. So thank you so much. And I hope in a few months' time, maybe we can do it again.
I
That
see
would be
Luke. I see
great.
Luke here. I see Luke here. Luke here. Yes, we'll do it again on this format, but we'll do it again together. Every time I see Luke, I'm reminded of how much I want to come back.
Thank you, Tom, and greetings to Toby.
Thank you, Ignacio. Of course, I'll pass those on.
Thank you, Tom, so much for taking the time to be with us and for everything you do in this world. And I can see it in everyone's faces now. I have the gallery view on. I see how everyone's smiling. I mean, what a gift.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Irene.
much.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Merci.
Thank
guys.
you all.
Thank you.
All
Thank
the
you very
best.
much.
Thank
Merci,
you.
Irène.
Sending you all so much love. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Rene.
Mhm.
Oops. Oh.
Hop. Mhm.